just to give you a quick recap, the attribution modeling, the main reason for doing it is to optimize the company's marketing strategy and gain competitive advantage. And we also see how the customer behaves when they make a purchasing decision, what sort of different channels they go through, and so on. And the attribution modeling gives us a way to analyze all those different customer journeys. And when there are several marketing channels involved in the customer journey, the exercise helps us attribute the attributions or attribute the conversions or the purchases to these different marketing channels. So essentially what that means is for what percentage of the purchases or conversion is each marketing channel responsible for. So that is why we primarily use the attribution modeling. And we can also measure the effectiveness of different ad campaigns within a particular marketing channel. So these are other benefits that you get. And since we are focusing on the B2B side of attribution modeling as opposed to B2C, there are some additional challenges involved, mainly those being the length of the conversion funnel, number of interactions, and then there are a combination of online and offline touch points, and also the number of touch points as well. So on average, B2B buyers engage 36 times with their vendors before purchasing. So all of these factors combine to complicate the B2B attribution modeling situation. And then we also said that unlike B2C, there are the person who is starting to research for the product, whom we call as initiators, is very different from the person who is going to finally be using the product. Okay? So this also makes analyzing those customer journeys very difficult. And then this is just a list of the different marketing channels involved in the customer journey. So we have something called as the marketing stages and then the sales stages. Okay. So in marketing stages, if you see, this is a typical process that the customer goes through in making the decision, or by transitioning from the marketing stage to the sales stage, he goes through this process. So attention, interest, desire, and action. So in marketing parlance, this is called as the AIDA model, AIDA. So attention is where the customer looks at an advertisement or looks at a banner ad or whatever, and then he has that basic tendency, okay, let's see what this product or service is all about. So that's where that advertisement grabs the potential customer's attention. So that is what we call as the attention stage, which is the first stage of marketing. And then next comes the interest stage, where the prospect is more interested in getting additional details about their product or service. And desire is where the customer or the potential customer believes, I think we need to get this product or service because it will be good for us. So the stage where the customer gets that enthusiasm to make that purchase, that is what is called as desire. And then the final stage in marketing is called as action, where the customer or the potential customer takes some sort of an action or some sort of a decision which will help him move closer to the purchasing decision. Okay. Now this block diagram essentially shows the different marketing channels, to what extent are they involved in enticing the customer. So for example, if you see sponsorships, right? So this is like, so if you take a Tableau conference, for example, there are companies which sponsor the Tableau conference. So if you go to Tableau conference, they'll have companies such as Snowflake or some other companies which sponsor that event. So what that basically means is when you go to that event, you see ads of that particular company, right? So that ad basically grabs the prospective customer's attention. So that is why sponsorships are here in the attention category. On the other hand, if you see website, a customer visits the company's website only when the customer is interested to know more about the company and its products, right? So the website, it starts from interest and then it spans across desire and action. Okay. So the customer is interested in knowing about the company, and then he wants to buy products from that company, and then he might sign up for an email newsletter, or he might sort of find ways to contact the company. He might get the phone numbers and so on, right? So that is what we call as action. So if you see, the website spans all of these three stages: interest, desire, and action. So like this block diagram basically indicates to what extent are the different marketing channels involved in the marketing stage of the customer journey. And then after the marketing stage, we have something called as the sales stages. This is something like a funnel, I would say, where the first stage is what we call as the lead qualification stage. Okay, so lead qualification is so when a prospective customer gets in touch with the company evaluates whether this is the right customer for us. Okay, so that prospective customer who has just contacted the company, he is called as a lead. Okay, and whether that lead is suitable for us or not, or for the company or not, whether we'll actually be able to sell the product to that prospect, or whether the prospect is genuinely interested in purchasing something from us. So this is an assessment that the company does. Okay, and if everything comes out to be okay at the end of this assessment, then we call that lead as a qualified lead. So that is what we call as the lead qualification process. Okay, and then there is something called as the connect call, which is like an initial call to get to know more about the customer, what are their needs and so on. Okay, discovery call is nothing but a more detailed call on the customer's requirements, what sort of budget do they have, what sort of timelines are they willing to work with, what are the exact features of the product or service that they want, and so on. So that is what is called as the discovery call. And then at the end of the discovery call, if the even after knowing about all the product, services and details, and all the other features, the pricing structure and so on, if the customers or if the prospect is still interested, then that is where the lead is converted to an opportunity. Okay, so that is what we call as the opportunity stage. And then there is a product demonstration stage, after which we have to the customer has to convince their stakeholders basically. So there will be superiors in the company, right? Who will basically okay the purchasing decision, who have the power to either okay or veto the purchasing decision. So they have to be convinced of the benefit of the product or service. So that is what we call as the stakeholders buy-in, where we try to convince our superiors to buy the product or service. Okay, and then there's negotiation phase, which primarily focuses on the price. Typically, when large purchases are made, right, when products are bought in bulk for large companies, a lot of negotiation happens. And even if after the end of the negotiation phase, if everything is okay, then that is where the contract is signed. So this is like your typical marketing funnel, where customers might drop off at any stage of the funnel. Okay, so these are what we call as the sales stages. So this we saw a couple of weeks back as well. The customer starts here, he goes through multiple marketing channels, and at the end he converts or doesn't convert. So you can see that the paths taken by the customer are various or many in number, and that is what makes analyzing this data very difficult. Okay, so what we have done over the past couple of months here at Perceptive is that we have sort of developed a proof of concept for using this Markov chain model for B2B marketing attribution. Now, we have gone through Markov chain model in one of our previous sessions, but to just refresh your memory, the Markov chain model is a random process where the system is modeled as a series of states. Okay, and at any point in time, the system can transition from one state to another, and there is a probability associated with each of these transitions. So what this basically means is the process that we say that we talk about at the first point is the process of the purchasing decision or the customer journey. Okay, the system is modeled as a series of states, right? So states are nothing but the different marketing or the sales channels that the prospective customer is going through. Okay, so now we come to the second point where we say the system can transition from one state to another. Okay? So this is like saying, the person who is coming to the company's website, he can first look at the website, and then he can visit the company's LinkedIn page, and then he can contact someone at the company, and then he can make that discovery call. So all of these channels, right? The website, the LinkedIn ad, the discovery call. So all of those are what we call as the states. Okay, and there's a probability associated with the transition from one state to another. So this is like 50% of the people who come to the website also visit the company's LinkedIn page. 20% of the people who come to the company's LinkedIn page contact the sales representative of the company. So this is what we call as the probability associated with the transition from one state to another. Okay. So that's what I mentioned in the third point. The different channels that the customer goes through are the states of the Markov chain model. Okay. So these are the three components of the marketing model. The Markov chain model: the state space, the transition matrix, and the initial distribution. This is basically the probability distribution, the probability of transitioning from one state to another. Any questions until now?
None from my end side.
Okay. Let me move on. So what we do in this Markov chain modeling exercise is that we first create something called as the Markov Graph, okay, with all user paths from data. So what does that mean? Let me just show you quickly. Stop sharing my screen for a moment, and I'll open a different file. Just give me a moment. Okay. Can you see the Excel file which is being displayed right now?
Yes, I.
All right. So this is how the raw data will look like. So we have something called as an opportunity ID, okay, and then there is something called as an opportunity stage, and then there is the timestamp. Okay. Now just see in the first three rows, right? So these correspond to one particular opportunity. So these you can consider as one prospective customer. Okay. So what that customer has done is, on the 12th of July, he has clicked on the paid search link. Okay, and then on the 7th of October, that lead has become qualified, and on the 1st of November, there has been a connect call, or the initial call with the sales representative. Okay, so this is what we call as the customer journey. So this customer has first come from paid search. Paid search is nothing but you search for the company's name on Google, and then in the search results you get a link for that particular company as a Google ad, and then the customer clicks on that Google ad link and comes to the website. So that is what we call as the paid search. So let's imagine that after that thing happened, the customer was evaluated and his needs were found to be valid, and so thereby we qualified that opportunity as a lead. That is what we call as the lead qualified stage, and then there was an initial call to connect with the customer. Okay, so this is the stages that this particular customer has gone through. So similarly, there are this 9422 is a different customer. So like this, each customer has undergone multiple stages spanning across the marketing and sales channels, right? So out of all this raw data, we construct something called as the Markov Graph. Okay, so which is a diagrammatic representation of the data. Okay, and also we once we construct this graph, we calculate the transition probabilities for each success path. So let's take, for example, this particular path. The customer begins the journey. He visits the trade fair or the company's booth in a particular trade fair, and then he visits the YouTube channel. Then he comes to the website, and then ultimately decides to purchase the product, which we call as conversion. Okay. So imagine that out of 100 customers who have visited our website, or who have basically had some sort of an interaction with us, out of those 100 customers, if let's say 20 customers have followed this particular path of start, trade fair, YouTube, website, and conversion, then this P1 will be 20%. So for different paths, or different success paths which lead to the customer purchasing the product ultimately. What are the probabilities for each of those paths? So that is the next step that we do here. Okay, and then we have something called as the removal effect. Okay, so removal effect is if you remove a particular channel from the path, right? What is the difference in the conversions that you get? So for example, let's say this path contributes 20% of the conversions. Okay, so but in this path, if I remove the YouTube from this path, then the conversion gets reduced to 15%. Okay, so what that basically means is that 5% conversion is contributed by YouTube. So that is what we got. So that 5% is what is called as the removal effect. So that is what we see here. Calculate each channel's removal effect. Okay. So this we do it at two levels. So one is at a path level, and then at the overall level. Okay. But right now in this proof of concept that we have done, we have not done this particular step. We have calculated each channel's overall contribution to conversions. Okay. So the C1, C2, C3, C4, C5 is essentially if you have 100 conversions, then what percentage of those, to be more precise, the trade fair is responsible for what percentage of those 100 conversions. YouTube channel is responsible for what percentage of those 100 conversions. So that is what we say when here we calculate each channel's overall contribution to conversions. Any questions? All right, so let me just show you the results of the exercise that we did. So here we didn't have the data readily available. We did have what you can call as the skeleton of the data, but we have to work extensively with that data to bring it to a format where it has the statistics that we desired. So this was a very good exercise in logical thinking and so on. Maybe if you're interested, we can talk about that at a later session. Okay, but just to give you an overview of what we did in the exercise, this is the marketing funnel which we got from the data. Okay, so coming back to that diagram that I was showing you, here in the marketing stage, there is within this Google ad, LinkedIn ad, and all these other channels, there is no particular funnel or different stages like Google ad is number 1, LinkedIn ad is number 2. There's something like that. Okay, so the customer has the possibility to go from any of the channel to any other channel within the marketing stage. Okay, so all of the channels in the marketing stage we have clubbed under one bucket, so which we call as marketing. Okay, so you see 130,000 potential customers have visited one or more of the stages which you see here. Okay, so that is what we call as 130,000 opportunities. Okay, out of the 130,000 opportunities, 32,000 opportunities we call them as lead qualified. Okay, and this we consider as the base. Okay, and after the lead qualified stage, out of the 32,644, 32,640 or almost all of them have made some sort of an inquiry with the sales representative. So they would have made call to a sales representative asking for basic information about the product. Okay, so out of the 100% or the 32,640, 80% if you see were involved in the connect call stage, which is that initial call to know more about the customer and their requirements. Okay, and here after knowing a little bit more details, some customers may drop off, right? So that is why we see this 20 percentage point drop here, and so 60% have only transitioned to the discovery call phase. Okay, and out of the 60, so after the 60%, 45% have only been willing to see a product demonstration. Okay, and then 30% have succeeded in convincing their stakeholders. 20% have gone to the negotiation stage, and finally, if you see, out of this 100% or the 32,644, only 10% have signed the contract to purchase the product or service. So this is what we call as the marketing funnel. Okay, now just a few descriptive analysis from the data. So we had 130,000 opportunities in total, right? So these are the prospective customers who have interacted with one or more touch points in the marketing funnel or in the marketing stage. So this is what we call as all opportunities. Out of this 130,000 opportunities, how many of them came from the different marketing channels? So 24% came from Google Ad, 20% came from the conference, 19% came from the email newsletter, and so on. Okay. And similarly, for the qualified opportunities, how does this distribution hold? 30% came from Google Ad, and 19% came from the email newsletter. Okay. So if you just see here the difference between this percentage, these percentages, and these percentages, 20% of the opportunities or the overall opportunities come from the conference. Okay. But the qualified opportunities coming from the conference is very, very low. It's only 8%. Okay? So from the descriptive analysis, these are the kinds of insights that you may possibly get. Okay. So this is where these points help you determine which channel is resulting in quality leads. So the quality leads are what finally get qualified as opportunities, right? So you can see that here the conference is not very good in generating quality leads. So there are a lot of leads that you get, but very few of them are of high quality. That is why you see this drop from 20% to 8%. Okay. And then you look at conversions. So you see 30% of the conversions are from Google Ad, 18% of the conversions are from email newsletter, and so on. Okay. And certain other descriptive analysis, average time to qualification is 84 days. Average number of stages for the qualified opportunities, 8 stages. So which is to say that on an average, the customer interacts 8 times with the company whenever the customer has been qualified as a valid lead. Okay. For the converted opportunities, the average time to qualification is 87 days. The prospective customer goes through 11 stages on an average, and the average time to customer is time to conversion is around almost 6 months. Okay. So why do we have such a long time? Because this is a B2B buying scenario. A lot of stakeholders are involved. The money involved is also huge. So the conversion takes a very long time, around 6 months. Okay. And for the converted opportunities, what is the distribution by the number of stages that the opportunities go through? So around 44% of the opportunities, if you see, they have 11 touch points. 38% of the opportunities have 12 touch points, and so on. Okay. So minimum time to conversion is 2.4 months, and the maximum time to conversion is 9.9 months. Okay. So we first do some basic descriptive analysis of the data, and then we calculate something called as the path share. Okay. So I was talking about in the previous slide, right? What are the different journeys that the customer goes through, and what is the percentage of the people who have gone through those journeys. So this particular journey, if you see, zoom in a bit. So starting and then signing up for an email newsletter, clicking on the LinkedIn ad, visiting the YouTube channel, and making an inquiry. So this, if you see, the 2% of the opportunities have gone through. And then email newsletter, LinkedIn ad, visiting the company's website, and then making an inquiry. So this again 2% of the conversion of the customers have gone through this. So like this, we calculate the share of opportunities for the different customer journeys. Okay. Now all of this is actually done at the back end. Now just for the sake of understanding, I put it here. But there is a package for doing this Markov chain modeling in Python, and that is what I used. Maybe the Python mechanics of it I will cover in a different session. But just for the sake of understanding, now I put all of this over here. But typically, if you see, all the percentages, constant probabilities, and everything are calculated in the back end by the Python package. Okay. And then finally, this is the attribution that we get. So out of the 32,644 qualifications that we have, so now here, whatever exercise that we have done until now, we have attributed the qualifications rather than the final conversions. Okay. So this was a very initial exercise that we did, and we just wanted to see how the model works. So we are try to attribute the different qualifications to the different marketing channels. Okay, so out of the 32,644 qualifications that we have, 20% of the 32,644 is coming from the email newsletter, or this is to say email is responsible for 20% of the qualifications. YouTube is responsible for 19% of the qualifications. Again, website, LinkedIn ad 19%, followed by conference 10%, and so on. Okay. So this is the final result of the exercise that we have until now. The next stage here is to model the conversions also. So here if you see around 3,000 conversions we have, right? 3,297 are the final conversions. So what each marketing channel, what is the percentage of these conversions is it responsible for? That is the next stage of the project. So that we are yet to do, but this is where we are until now. So any questions, doubts, clarifications?
Sai, like you told that a particular client can have multiple channels. So how you are categorizing whether let's say a person came from website and YouTube? So in which channel will you put it in the count?
So that is where the probability and everything comes into play. So that Markov chain model, basically what it does is, though like you said, the customer visits the YouTube, he can see the website, he can click on the LinkedIn ad, he can attend the company's conference. So there are these multiple factors involved, right? But based on that transition probability of going from one channel to another, and based on the direction or the order of the channels that the customer goes through, a lot of back-end calculations being done, and that is how these percentages are determined. So that is what the model does.
Okay, so the model decides in which category the particular client has been put. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. So that's what I had for today.